So now we're going to start talking about pathogenesis, which is the development of a disease. So pathogenesis is going to occur in four main steps, what we call exposure, adhesion, invasion, and infection. So in exposure, this is where the pathogen is going to actually enter our body through what we call a portal of entry. So in order to make us get sick, we have to actually get exposed to it first. Then that pathogen needs a way of sticking around inside of our body, what we call adhesion. If the pathogen doesn't have some way of adhering, of attaching to our body cells, it's just going to be washed away and it's not going to be able to cause disease. Once it sticks to our body, then it's going to need a way of invading, of getting deeper down into the body. Pathogens are going to accomplish this through damaging the host tissue, and then once they damage that host tissue and start to get in, they're going to have to avoid the host defenses, and then once they're in those deeper layers of tissue, we have an infection. So at this point, the pathogens are able to reproduce more or less freely and actually cause disease, that abnormal state. Note that just because we get exposed to a pathogen doesn't mean we necessarily get sick. If that were true, we would get sick all the time because there are microorganisms around us all the time. Some microorganisms have much greater pathogenicity, are much more pathogenic, much better at causing disease than other organisms. And we measure that degree of pathogenicity through what we call the infectious dose 50 or ID50. This is essentially just a measure of the number of cells or virions, remember those are individual viral particles, that are needed to cause disease in 50% of animals that are exposed to that number of cells or virions. And the ID50 is going to depend on the virulence factors of those organisms. What do they have that allows them to adhere or invade, cause disease? So, which would be more pathogenic? An organism with an ID50 of 10 or an organism with an ID50 of 500? An organism with an ID50 of 10 is more pathogenic than an organism with an ID50 of 500. So that if you have an ID50 of 10, that means you're able to cause disease with only 10 bacterial cells. You've looked at them under the microscope. That's teeny tiny, itsy bitsy. So if we have a low ID50, then we're able to cause disease with a much smaller amount of organism. So there's actually a really wide range on infectious dose 50. Some ID50s get as low as 1. Just one infectious particle is enough to cause disease, while other organisms have an ID50 of 10 million. You need a lot of them in order to actually cause disease. So remember, the lower the ID50, the more pathogenic the organism is. And that's going to depend on the virulence factors of the organisms. So the virulence factor is a specific structure or molecule that that organism has that is going to increase its pathogenicity, increase its ability to cause disease, allow it to do one of those steps of pathogenesis. And so we have a lot of different types of virulence factors. These can include things that help with adhesion. So this can include adhesins. Adhesins are these proteins that are attached to the ends of pili or sometimes to the ends of flagella that help them attach to cells in your body. Biofilms, we talked about how biofilms help bacteria stick to things and stick around. Invasion, so break down tissue and get deeper down into the body. This can include things like exoenzymes and toxins, and also avoiding the immune system. So preventing the host immune system from killing them off. We talked about how capsules can help protect bacteria from phagocytosis from your white blood cells. So virulence factors, these are specific structures or molecules that increase the pathogenicity of that organism, make it better at causing disease.